How to stop the damage of stonewalling in relationship.
Stonewalling is, in most cases, and this is something that's not spoken about very much, it's actually a sign of a nervous system in overwhelm. We've reached the max, we don't know how to deal with the situation, it's so intense, we go into stonewalling.
Stonewalling is like the players just walking off the court. You haven't consciously ask for your need. Hey, I need a timeout. Let's do a timeout here. When you consciously call the timeout, like Phil Jackson, like any basketball coach, everybody's okay with that. Welcome into the He Wants, She Wants Marriage podcast. In this episode, we're talking about how to stop the damage of stonewalling in relationship. 85% of stonewalling that happens in relationships, it's the husband or the man that's doing the stonewalling. However, if it's the wife that is stonewalling, that is way more of a high predictor of divorce about to happen. So you really need to pay attention to these stats. The definition of stonewalling is avoiding communication and conflict resolution altogether by not answering, turning away, getting obsessively busy with something. Often, it's a response to contempt.
Yes. It's like how defensiveness comes with criticism, contempt, and stonewalling kind of play together. And stonewalling is, in most cases, and this is something that's not spoken about very much, it's actually a sign of a nervous system in overwhelm. We've reached the max, we don't know how to deal with the situation, it's so intense, we go into stonewalling. I mean, I'm also the host of Daughters of Narcissistic Mothers podcast. I do speak to stonewalling as a manipulation tactic, which is actually the way that if you go look it up, you'll find it mostly depicted as. We're here not to say that that doesn't happen. If you are listening to this episode and you go, okay, stonewalling, you know what? I am totally aware that I'm doing it. I am totally intentional about it. I do it to make my partner suffer. Well, then that's where it falls into, that's actually a manipulation tactic. And that's really unhelpful. So, but this is not what we're talking about today. Today, we're talking about stonewalling as what it is actually in most cases. When you say 85% is in men, that's really what's happening. The system is in overwhelm. We don't know how to deal with these emotions that are coming up. We don't know how to deal with the situation. The partner is insisting, probably with contempt, because usually that's how it happens. Or there's been childhood experiences in which we've been at the receiving end of such an amount of criticism that it actually goes beyond defensiveness. It goes into this kind of, I can't speak and I am completely frozen and unable to interact right now. And that's what we're talking about today. And that manifests in kind of two different ways. We can do it in a stagnant way, which is the classic, you freeze, you're not talking, you're not responding, you're in a immobilized situation, you're not moving, there's no movement in your body. We were kind of joking about, like, you would be just staring at the ceiling as I was trying to have a conversation. That was like a very clear example of the stagnant version of it. And the other one, instead, it goes into impulsive movement. And that would have been more like possibly my way of going at it, which is like you busy yourself into doing something really impulsively. So you could be having this conversation in the kitchen. All of a sudden, you're wiping every single surface on your counter.
Well, don't be owning all of that for you. I remember plenty of times. This is where you can get competitive with woundedness. It's like, oh, hold on here a second. Well, I'm just as wounded as you. It's sort of funny that you report, that you were thinking that was more you. I have a whole video library coming through to me of you going, what the hell are you doing that for now? And I do remember, like, going back through it, it's like, yeah, all of a sudden cleaning the kitchen is the most important thing in my entire existence, or fussing around tidying up the bedroom when, hey, I'm not doing anything with it, but all of a sudden
Thank you for bringing that back to me. I had forgotten about that. I just have this PTSD every time I see you stroking your forehead from the moments of staring at the ceiling and not talking back.
Yeah.
So,
Well, bedtime, I mean, the whole can we talk? I mean, I've laughed at this in a, I don't know, emotionally tragic way. It's like a great tragedy for most men. And in fact, it's not surprising that 85% of stonewalling happens with men. And I'm really glad that you spoke to that part of the human experience. That the vast majority, the majority of the time, it's that manipulative type thing. I think when I go back in my library of memories relating with you, very rarely in contemptuous moments, it's just like, I'm just not talking. And there was a wish of inflicting suffering because, hey, you were saying such things to me. It's like, hey, I'm just doing it. That was in the minority. The vast majority, it's the human experience. And in fact, my hand goes on my heart straight away. It was the level of hurt. It was the level of overwhelm. It was my nervous system on countless occasions just did not know how to process. My inner world experience was when I was stonewalling, I didn't have a thought in my head. It's like my nervous system shut down. And I look back and it was frightening and I think above all else, confusing for me. Because in moments like that, you clearly were like, God, you're rubbing your forehead, you're staring at the ceiling. You would be asking me for, well, what's happening in you? Tell me what's going on. I didn't know how to speak because I didn't know what was happening. Nothing was happening in me. My entire mind had shut down. I couldn't rub together two coherent thoughts. That's what my inner world experience of stonewalling was.
yes. And in those moments, the other person wants to talk more, which actually is part of the issue. I do remember my experience in it, which was I have it mostly outside actually. When we were doing work in the yard, I'd be then, you would have said whatever, and I just busy myself working even harder. And at that point, I'm not talking to you anymore. And in my head, what was happening is like he won't shut up. There's no, I'm maxed. I've got to the total max of what I can take. And I am powerless as to communicate in a way to you that you'll actually stop. Because when we get to that level of contempt, even tears don't stop the other person. It's like you're crying, you plow on ahead even more when you see the other person crying. So you get to that point where it's like either I throw the fork at him or my only way is just to shut up. So it is that overwhelm.
No, it's your beautiful articulation of that is bringing to that point, because there is the overwhelm that's happening in the partner that's experiencing the stonewalling. There's a shutdown because of overwhelm. But when you were saying about, not even your tears could get me to be quiet, it's the utter sense of rejection. You're stonewalling. I was feeling it as an abject rejection of me. It's like I'm actually here trying to talk to you.
Yeah.
All the times in times come by, you criticize me for not talking. I'm finally actually here, heart and soul, and I'm trying to communicate. And now you're just gone quiet. And it's such a tragedy because, in our investigation of this, knowing what stonewalling is, if I could go back, and this is the power of these episodes in this special series, if I could go back and have at least one neuron that goes, she's not rejecting you, Mark. She's experiencing such a sense of overwhelm. She doesn't know what to say. And if you could have that, all my stonewalling for 2 hours staring at the ceiling, not saying anything, and the conversation or the lack of conversation, but the experience of conflict was rumbling on and on and on because you couldn't sleep until I said something. The more you prodded me, the more my overwhelm and stonewalling cemented in. There's no rejection.
Yeah.
It's overwhelm. The person can't speak.
Yeah, it's not personal. But it is important to understand that when you're stonewalling, the message you're sending the other person is one of rejection.
Yes.
And of course, if we're having a conversation about contempt and stonewalling, we're talking about wounded people because we carry wounds. And so that rejection hurts and it creates this cycle. So that's why we want to talk about 4 steps
Yep.
to actually how do we stop this cycle? And the first step is pausing, the power pause, we call it. That pause, and it gives me a breath just to say because it's like, no matter which one of you, the one that's okay, you're stonewalling and you're realizing I am at that point. If you, this is something that we can do with practice. You start learning to track your system. You start learning to know, okay, I'm getting to that place where I am maxed. And if you can catch it a little bit before, better. If you, like, I know because this has happened for us, you would just go, okay, I'm staring at the ceiling again. Right. I'll move. I'll sit up out of bed instead of, and there was that pause of awareness, of noticing that that's happening. And of course, if you have a common language, and that's why we always invite you to listen to these episodes together if you can, if you notice that that's what's happening to your partner, instead of plowing on and insisting with what you were bringing in the conversation, it's time to pause. It's time to pause. That pause is going to be really important.
That's brilliant. You're making the point that either partner can create that power pause. So when that power pause is done, there's already a calming down of the nervous systems. And at that point, it's for either partner, whoever has called the power pause is now conscious and in awareness. You can call a timeout. Now, for people listening in, if anybody is familiar at all with basketball, what happens when there's an overwhelm in the team? And an overwhelm in basketball is when 3 or 4 scores in a row happens for the opposite side and you're scrambling. There's an overwhelm. Your strategies aren't working. The coach, Phil Jackson for the Chicago Bulls, you call a timeout. It's not working. So let's just call a timeout, and we come in. You call a timeout. You say, Red, need a timeout here. Let's stop this experience rumbling on. The key thing about the timeout is stonewalling itself is an unconscious calling timeout. The system goes into overwhelm, so it just shuts down. It's meeting a physiological need for a timeout, but it does it unconsciously. So imagine if the Chicago Bulls are playing back in the day. I don't know the modern, the current managers or that, but if back in the day, Phil Jackson doesn't call a timeout, but the team by itself just goes, screw this. And they don't consciously call a timeout. They just walk off the court. The entire stadium is going to take it as a rejection. Stonewalling is like the players just walking off the court. You haven't consciously asked for your need. Hey, I need a timeout. Let's do a timeout here. When you consciously call the timeout, like Phil Jackson, like any basketball coach, everybody's okay with that. And that moves to point number 3. You reconnect. Think about the players during a timeout. They sit closer together. They have drinks together. That's meeting attachment needs. Whether any sports coach or basketball coach ever speaks to that, the attachment needs are touch. So you've called the timeout. You go to your partner, place a hand on their lap. There's overwhelm either side. The conversation hasn't been going so great. Get some physical closeness. Get a cup of water. Just get that timeout. Hey, babe. Hey, honey. A glass of water. When you drink the water, it literally massages your vagal nerve, which
helps with the overwhelm.
It helps with the overwhelm. So the simple act of getting a glass of water each, if you have a bit more time, you want to extend that time out. Hey, babe, I'm just going to put on a cup of tea. Herbal tea, something relaxing. Stay away from the coffees, and you have your chamomile tea. Again, it's giving a pause. It's giving the time out. It's not basketball. You don't have to be back out, after whatever it is, 30 seconds or 60 seconds. You pause that, and you're meeting these attachment needs. And movement is another beautiful thing. An attachment need for connection is, hey, how about we just move to the sitting room? How about we go for a walk outside? Again, it's meeting those attachment needs. So that's point 2, call the time out. And point 3, in the time out, meet those attachment needs and the system is already regulating and coming into landing in a beautiful way.
Exactly. And then step 4 is you can come back to the conversation after when you've calmed down. So, like that pause, the pause at the beginning is literally that moment of awareness, is that moment where one of you goes, "Ooh, this is what's happening here." The timeout, you're calling it, you're saying it to your partner. We just need a break. We need a timeout. And we've done that. There were like literally moments where from the kitchen we could go for a walk, or from being in the bedroom in that I'm staring at the ceiling like, okay, we're not even necessarily changing room. It was late at night, children and different things, you don't want to make a noise, but we would change position. You'd sit up, we'd sit facing each other instead of lying in bed looking at the ceilings, both of us, or stuff like that. That changes. Now you said the word red, say red when you call the timeout. That is what we use actually. And this is where you need the common language. We have a system, we use the traffic light, it's like amber, it's like it's almost a timeout. It's like it's a little bit, something has to shift, and then red is like, okay, we need an actual timeout. So that you want to have a common language with your partner, because if you're saying red, or if you're saying stop, or if you're saying timeout, whatever word that actually just makes you both know that that's what you're calling on.
Yeah. What has worked for us is we have formally set that as an if then agreement. If one of us calls amber, there's a cooling down. If one of us calls red, that's it. The conversation must stop. It must. There is a pre-agreed statement that that is the plan. If red is called, if timeout is called, well, then you stop. It doesn't matter what's coming through your mind. It doesn't matter how righteous you feel. It doesn't matter how victimized you feel or attacked you. It does not matter. There's the safety in the container.
And that coming back to the leaning into connection and meeting the attachment need that you mentioned, I know for me that has such a meaning, because abandonment wound for me being such a major thing that I've been dealing and working with for years, that message of rejection, it really hits home. It's like, and I know it does actually hit home for you from a different slant, but I'm like speaking for myself right now. So that moment of, okay, we don't have to continue the conversation now, we've called the time out, so we're going to pause the conversation, but I'm not walking away from you, or I'm not shutting you out anymore. We're doing whatever, not only to calm the system down, but we're doing whatever to bring it back to connection, which kind of says to me that, like, yeah, part of me could be upset about whatever, but ultimately this is not going to destroy the relationship. We're here together in this. We're bringing it back to teamwork, and that abandonment wound can settle quite a bit, which was usually the fuel of me wanting to keep on talking.
Well, I keep going back to sporting metaphor. Just being a dude, I think it works, but it's like, Phil Jackson could be going crazy. You're not effing doing what I just told you. Like that's why the others have scored 4 in a row. Like, God, he could be ripping on the inside, but when he calls the timeout, he doesn't piss off to the stands going, screw him. He's there in the intensity of it, and everybody listening in. Marriage gets intense. Overwhelm will happen. It's part of it when there's that level of emotional intensity. That's a good sign, because you can get like what we got to for a while, where there was zero emotional intensity. The argument stopped because you were feeling such hopelessness. I was feeling, oh, thank God I'm liberated. I was pretending that things were fine. You really don't want to get to that point. So like a well-lived marriage where the intensity of the human experience, both sides, there's going to be moments, no matter how beautiful it is, there's going to be these moments. There just are. And to embrace that and not to shy away from it and see it as that it's something wrong. Basketball, there's times when just things aren't going right. You call a timeout.
Yeah.
You regroup together. Yeah, there was a bit of conflict, things weren't coming. Well, that's why the timeout. You reconnect and go, wow, things just got a bit crazy there for a moment. Let's regroup. Let's come back in. And at that point, at some point, there's the re-engaging with the topic of the conversation, what you were saying was number 4. I think that was one thing for me, was the skill set of not forcing the conversation. And one of the biggest things I've learned in marriage with you is, we don't actually have to bring that topic home today. Maybe the break needs to be that long. The timeout could get me with a perspective where, you know what, I'm not actually feeling, and I don't feel we're ready yet to have a full clearing on that topic. Let's speak to it later on today, when we come back from work, or let's speak to it tomorrow. It's whatever. We have the morning together. Be willing to extend that break to the point at which you both feel resourced to actually bring your fullness to the topic.
Yes. Yes, that's really important. So when I love what you brought about intensity, it's like this is the final episode of the series of the four horsemen of marriage apocalypse. So by going through the series, and if you haven't yet, the invitation is to actually listen to all the episodes and to listen to them again and again and to listen to them together. But by working with the antidotes to criticism, defensiveness, contempt, and stonewalling, you're not reducing the intensity of your marriage. And that's a really important thing, because for me, for so long, I was like coming from a really deeply traumatizing family, and where drama was an everyday experience. I was like, I need peace, I need harmony, I need quiet, I need zero drama. And that was translated with, I don't want intensity. And that was not conducive, which brought to that period that you were referring to, which was not actually, that was not lack of intensity. That was lack of everything. That was just indifference. That was not coming from, we've healed the woundings and now we're happy. That was just, we're avoiding all the topics that are going to stir shit. Therefore, there's actually no intimacy, emotional intimacy, connection. Is just two people living under the same roof, doing their best not to upset one another. What you're reducing by the antidotes of these things is the drama, because the drama, it's unhelpful. That brings disconnection. That's going to bring divorce. That's what we're working with reducing. But the intensity, that remains. And the intensity is what we embrace. I think that's, I know we do that. We just embrace it. And when we teach that too. It's like you embrace the intensity, but you're reducing the drama. That's unhelpful and not needed.
Yeah. I mean, the surfing metaphor does it for me. It's piss poor. It's boring as hell. If the only wave you can surf is the teeny tiny one that the beginners, toddlers are on, or the people like myself are on, just like where it's like tiny, it's embarrassing. You don't want to be that adult that's on that tiny wave being coached. You're like, this is so boring. This is so embarrassing. That's what trauma does to us. We try to box our marriage and box our partner into just that wave of emotionality. Nothing more, because I don't want any more of that. No, screw that. Like, this is the antidotes in this special series are such a revelation in being able to bring your marriage, you, yourself, your partner, and that energetic entity that we call marriage, that invisible bond, to go from resisting the emotionality in the other person to flowing with it. And that brings intensity on. And it's like the surfing, the resisting is, I'm not fucking moving from these teeny tiny little waves on the beach, and anything out there is going to kill me. No, you actually go with the antidotes in this special series. You're like, let's grab my surfboard. Let's go surfing. Wow, there's desire. Wow, there's anger. Wow, there's your human authentic truth that's coming through that I don't know how to contain, but the antidotes will help you both get back into flow, get the roses back in the garden. And the roses in the garden of married life, hey, it's emotional intensity, energy and motion. We're not going to be moved to a future. We're not going to be moved to love each other if there is not that emotion there. The antidotes will get you back into flow.
And going back to the agreements, the antidotes are going to help you with taking small steps towards big dreams. Because yes, we may not want to stay stuck on the small waves, but it's really okay to start with those. And even just by listening together to this series, that's a small step. By listening again, that's another small step. And that way, with those small steps, you learn to go from the small wave to actually riding the full tsunami of it.
This special series has been awesome. I believe it was your mighty fine idea, baby. Thank you. This is bringing so much to the people listening in. And guys, our call to action to everybody at home is, if you have not yet listened to all the episodes, backtrack, listen to them on repeat again and again. There's so much medicine packed in it. And more especially if you have yet to share it with your partner, share this special series with your partner. This is such a complete series. In 5 episodes, there's so much value that it will help you get back into flow and have those rose bushes blooming into glory in the marriage, in your married life. It has been absolutely awesome. Thank you, baby, as always. And for all of those you tuning in, thanks for listening in. And until the next episode, go dare to get what you want.
Bye.
Bye, guys.